Hello and welcome to the Culture Swally, a podcast dedicated to Scottish news and pop culture. My name is Nicky, and as always, I'm joined by Greg.
Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Greg. How are you?
I'm nursing a bit of a hangover, but I'm through the worst of it. I was obviously where I live, alcohol is forbidden by law, but my neighbour up the stairs makes his own lager, so I usually have a few pints with him at the weekend. But the problem is, he uses like a local non-alcoholic lager to make it. He adds like sugar and yeast. I've done it a few times as well. It's quite easy, but because there's already quite a lot of sugar in the non-alcoholic lager itself, and then you add a lot of sugar, the upshot is it's fucking really strong. It's like special brew, so like literally like 3 or 4 pints and you're hammered. But his neighbour, who shares the landing with him, gave him a wee bottle of this stuff that he had made, and it had basically made booze. It's, I guess, a bit like, you might remember the old Smirnoff Moscow Mules, kind of ginger beer alcopop. He's kind of made an alcopop using ginger beer. I think that's what did me in, because I usually know my limit on his I rarely go over 3 pints, never go over 4 pints. But I had a couple of these wee ginger beer ones as well, and they must have been like super strong. So the upshot is, I can't remember coming back down the stairs. I can't remember. I know I sent you and our other pal a message. I don't remember recording that. Don't remember going to bed. Like I came into the living room this morning. My phone, my jeans, and my socks were on the sofa. So I'd obviously started getting ready for bed in the living room. And just a fucking absolute disgrace. So I paid the price for my irresponsible consumption of alcohol. Drink responsibly, kids. So yeah, what have you been up to this week?
Not a lot this week. Been busy with work and not much else. And today was the first day I wasn't busy, because I'm still working from home, and I was like, okay, my schedule's quite free. So I was very excited because I had pre-ordered the new Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 remastered edition. And I got my email yesterday to say it had been dispatched. So I have been back and forth to the post box downstairs probably about 6 times today. And of course, sod's law, it arrived 10 minutes before we started recording the podcast. Yeah. So I'm very much looking forward to playing that this evening, if I'm able to wrestle the TV from my wife. But we'll see.
I mean, I don't think I ever played the second Tony Hawk's. I definitely played the first one. So I had that for my PlayStation when it came out, and I played the third one on my PlayStation 2. But I was reading, like on Facebook, you have all the comments under the articles and stuff, and some games account that I follow posted about Tony Hawk's coming out this week, and this guy commented and said, I hope they've left all that shite out that they started putting in after the third one.
I think there was about 5 or 6 in total, though, wasn't there? So It might have been towards the end. I do seem to remember reading that the later ones weren't very good, because I think I did look for like a PS3 or a PS4 version a while ago, because I obviously love the game, and reading reviews and stuff and basically saying stay away. It's 1 and 2 and that's it. You shouldn't really play anymore. So I am delighted to be able to relive my youth and pretend it's 1999 again by playing this. And, it's apparently all the same arenas and all the same skaters and stuff and same soundtrack, basically. So I'm very much looking forward to playing that. And that's been about it. And that will probably be my weekend as well, apart from editing the podcast, obviously. So, have you seen any news items from around Scotland this week that have caught your eye?
I have. I've got 2. They're both belters. I've got to be honest, they're both absolute belters. My first one comes from the Daily Record on the 23rd of August, so it's a couple of weeks old. Rangers fan Souness Clark tries to steal boat after missing the supporters' bus. So this is a story of Souness Clark. obviously comes from a big Rangers family. He'd been at the away game, FA Cup game at the Tony Macaroni Stadium in Livingston, which...
I'm sorry. Livingston?
Yeah, I know, right?
I thought you were going to say it was an away game in France or Germany or something, but he's nicked a boat to get from Livingston back to Glasgow.
Yeah, this was the Scottish League Cup quarter-final in September last year. So he's he's got to Livingston to watch the game. He's missed him with his cousin. He comes from Clydebank, which is sort of just kind of west of Glasgow. It's probably about, I would say, maybe about 40 miles from Livingston to Clydebank, give or take. But the bus is left without him, and he has decided to follow his friend to Perth because his friend had booked a room at the hotel in Perth, a really nice hotel actually, the Balathy Country House Hotel. And obviously, he's found himself in Perth the next morning. Perhaps he's thought, how the fuck did I get here? More importantly, how the fuck am I going to get home? And he's decided to steal a boat, or try to steal a boat. He was seen down at the river, jumping in and out between two small anchored fishing boats. When he finally managed to get himself into a boat, he's repeatedly tried to start the engine, while another person, presumably his cousin, pushed the boat away from the bank. The police predictably were called. When Souness saw the police coming, he jumped out of the boat into the river, ran a short distance along the bank, trying to hide in the dense shrubbery. He was told by the police, according to prosecutor Tina Dickey, he was told by police officers to get out the shrubs. He refused, initially, and he ran further down the banking into more shrubbery, and he continued to hide for 30 minutes. It was only after a police dog was dispatched on the scene he sort of gave himself up. He ran away from the police dog initially, managed to fall in the river again. He's obviously admitted his guilt in this amusing caper. Unfortunately, he's got a bit of previous for Rangers away games when Rangers were in Germany last year playing RB Leipzig in Berlin. He was flung off an EasyJet flight for grabbing a stewardess's breast and was put on the sex offenders register as a result for 10 years. So I think if I was Souness, I would probably just give up on the away games because he's clearly having no luck.
I think he's up the creek without a paddle, really, there when it comes to away games. What would possess you to steal a boat? I mean, I can understand you need to get home. Have you ever taken a strange mode of transport home on a drunken night out?
I did try to get my flatmate to push me home in one of those delivery cages that you sometimes see outside shops, but pushed it really fast and it fell over and ended up fucking up my knee. That's probably the most unusual mode of transport. What about you?
Yeah, I remember that night well. I was there that night.
Yeah, if you were. I know. You's all just fucked off and left me, as I recall. Some kindly girls helped me back up onto my feet, and by the time I got to the chippy, I had to join like a pretty long queue. You guys were at the front, and then back to my flat and left me on my own in the chippy.
That's what friends are for. I don't think so. I think probably the same, a shopping trolley that you would find lying in the street, and one of you would get in it and, push the other ones, and invariably it turns out as a laugh to begin with, and then someone gets a bit too daring and starts pushing it faster and faster, and inevitably there's tears.
Yeah.
Your mum was always right. There's going to be tears, and there quite often is.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's the only time I've ever taken a strange mode of transport home.
I mean, I think everybody just assumes that boats are quite easy to drive and stuff. You know what I mean?
They do. I mean, living in Amsterdam, you see quite a lot of tourists that have obviously rented a boat for the day and think, it's a piece of piss. And then you see them crash into the side of a canal or capsizing. You can see them steering off in the wrong direction and with a panicked look on their face of no way how to control this or to recover from it. So, no, it's definitely not an easy task to drive a boat.
What about you? What have you found in the news this week?
Well, there has been trouble at the D Social Club in Dundee on karaoke night. An operations manager dived on an 87-year-old man and bit him twice during a Dundee Social Club's karaoke night. This is from the Dundee Courier from the 2nd of September. So the basis of the story is that they were having a karaoke night, and the club vice president, Paul Neve, was up and he was singing Dean Martin's Ain't That a Kick in the Head. Now, our defendant, William Abbott, obviously took a bit of dislike to Paul Neve's rendition of Ain't That a Kick in the Head. I don't know if there was maybe something, if they had some previous going on, and just didn't like Paul, but who knows. So, to show his disdain, he started flicking beer mats across the dance floor, presumably at the stage, and shouting abuse. This 83-year-old hero decided that he wanted to ask him to leave the club. Mm-hmm. So this is Mr. Young, is the 83-year-old man.
Right.
He said that he was asking him to leave the club, and someone else came over and said to him as well, you have to leave. And he just turned round and jumped on me. He then bit me in the hand and then in the arm. The court heard that other patrons were horrified by what happened, and Abbott was described in court as being off his nut because he was so drunk. So, by the time police officers arrived at the scene, they found overturned tables, glass all over the floor, and this 83-year-old guy getting first aid. And now, this took a 3-day trial. So I don't know if, the Dundee courts are quiet at the moment and they're wasting time for 3 days on this. But the jury took less than 90 minutes to find father of two, Abbott, guilty of assaulting Mr. Young.
What, did he plead not guilty, did he?
He did. He pled not guilty.
Fucking hell.
He pled not guilty to 3 other charges, including assaulting Mr. Neve, who sang Ain't That a Kick in the Head, by punching him in the head.
Right.
And by recklessly throwing glasses at other customers. But those charges were found not proven. So he was only found guilty of the assault. In his defence, he said that for some reason he was asked to leave the club, and he was just about to do so when Mr. Neve and others forced him to the ground and beat him up.
Right.
The prosecutor said this simply isn't true. He was very aggressive and angry, and when an 87-year-old man, that's 87, oh yeah, it was 87, I think I said 83 earlier, when he told him to stop flinging beer mats, he took his anger out on him. I think the court took into account that Abbott had 4 previous convictions for violence, but the most recent of those was from 2010, so he must have been a reformed character for 10 years. His solicitor defending came out with, that old defence. He has no specific recollection of doing what he was convicted of. So it turns out that our brave hero took his Simon Cowell role a bit too far and took offence to, maybe he's just a big Dean Martin fan, but deciding to fling beer mats across and ended up biting a pensioner.
I mean, you would like to think if you get to the age, getting to the age of 87 is an accomplishment, especially in Dundee, you would imagine, right? But, you would like to think when you get to 87 that the chances of you being, randomly assaulted in the fucking pub are probably behind you, you know what I mean?
You would hope. You're not hoping to go to your local social nights, karaoke night, and expect to get bitten.
No, exactly. Well, this is the thing with karaoke, right? It's obviously tensions and emotions can run high. So maybe he wanted to sing that Dean Martin song and he was annoyed because that guy got in there first.
It could be. I mean, it's not very often I've been to a karaoke night, but I can imagine the anger that would boil up in you if you have a specific song that you like to sing and someone sings it before you. That's got to piss you off because nobody wants to hear Shang-a-Lang, 20 times.
I don't know. Depends who's singing it.
That's true.
I'm with you. I mean, I fucking hate karaoke. What was the karaoke bar in Aberdeen on up near the old Odeon Cinema in the Bonaccord Baths?
Café Bardo.
Café Bardo. I remember being in there one night, and I remember being surprised at how busy it was, and just people are like, oh, well, they're just, yeah, he's not got a very good voice, but at least he's trying, at least he's brave enough to get up there and sing. Like, fuck off. You know what I mean? There is nothing noble in fucking ruining a Westlife song or something, you know what I mean, in a karaoke bar.
So you've never been tempted to get up and give a little sing-song?
No, it's not my cup of tea at all.
I've done karaoke once because I was forced into it. Randomly, it was in the Priory in Aberdeen. I think towards the latter stages, they ended up getting a karaoke machine downstairs because it was a drum-up custom.
Desperate.
So I was out with a group, and it was one of those that, oh, let's everyone sing a song, it'll be fun. And you know what I'm like in those situations. Yeah. Fuck off. No, you have to sing. Everyone has to sing. So I did. I got up and I sang a song.
On your own?
On my own, yes.
What was it?
I sang No Limit by 2 Unlimited.
Wow, it's an unusual choice.
I'm surprised it's in a karaoke book. There's not many lyrics, so it's perfect.
I was going to say, the words are easy to remember. Actually, you've reminded me, I have done karaoke once, and you and I were talking about it recently. So it was in the Student Union in Aberdeen with our mutual friend, and 2 girls had just started at my work who used to work where you used to work. I know you know these girls. And I was really quite keen on one of them and keen to impress her. So our mutual friend suggested that he and I do a duet of, I think it was Common People it was either Common People or Disco 2000 by Pulp. So I was trying to make a good fist of it. I was trying to do a good performance. And then about a couple of minutes into the song, I realised that our mutual friend wasn't even fucking singing. He was stood beside me, dancing to the song in front of everybody it's not an easy song to sing. Any Pulp songs generally aren't easy to sing because you essentially have to do like a sort of Jarvis Cocker impression.
Neither of them are duets, so I think he was well within his rights to just be your Bez. Was he shaking his maracas?
It was his fucking idea to do it in the first place. Yeah, so I think that's my one and only karaoke experience.
What, Chesney Hawkes?
No, doing Pulp and Chesney Hawkes.
Sorry, it was a poor joke. It was one and only. Come on.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, sorry.
Oh, Jesus, you're slow today.
I'm a bit slow today, sorry.
That hangover's getting the worst of you.
Anyway.
What else have you seen this week that's caught your eye?
Right, well, this is an absolute belter, and I kind of need to read it kind of verbatim from the article. So it comes from the Daily Record. The headline is, Iceland jobby horror for Scott's mum. For Scott's mum, as hand hits human poo while fishing chicken nuggets out of shop freezer.
Oh, what?
I know, right? The kind of byline is, they did say sorry and gave me a box of Lindor chocolate balls as an apology.
That's surely the last thing you would want.
Right, I've got to read you this, right? A disgusted Scotch shopper has hit out after her hand got covered in human faeces while buying chicken nuggets from Iceland. Mum of 4, Lynn McCabe, said she was horrified to discover she had been smeared in poo after putting her hand inside a freezer in the Saltcoats store at 3:30pm yesterday. Very exact reporting here. Lynn from Kilwinning realised there was human excrement on the packaging of the nuggets she was buying for her children's dinner when she accidentally touched her nose.
What? Oh my God.
The 35-year-old said, "The smell was awful. I must have touched my nose after I put the nuggets in a basket. At first I didn't know where it was coming from, but then I realised. I was disgusted and just glad my little girl hadn't touched it first." Repulsed Lynn quickly told staff what had happened and said she was taken aback by their reaction and their goodwill gesture. She added, "At first they laughed, and then one was kind of heaving, saying, 'That's disgusting.' They let me use the staff room to clean my hands. They did say sorry, and they gave me a box of Lindor chocolate balls as an apology." I mean, come on, I'm covered in poo, and they give me chocolate balls to say sorry. Lynn claims staff blamed an elderly woman who had been in the store earlier in the day for the mishap and said they would need to look at till receipts and CCTV to find out what had happened. She said the staff told her the woman was unwell and asked to use the toilet. Then added, they said she made a right mess and they had to clean it up. I was a bit shocked they hadn't closed the shop though. Surely if they knew there had been an accident, they should have checked the place thoroughly. I mean, to be fair to the staff, you would expect that, right? After something like that happens. Lynn believes the poorly woman must have touched the box of chicken nuggets after her accident. She added, but what else did they touch in the shop? I don't think they've bothered to check. The situation was handled terribly by staff. Who knows what kind of germs that person had, and just it was lying there for hours before it was cleaned. After leaving the store, Lynn called Iceland Customer Service Department to complain. She received a call back from the area manager who said he had not been made aware of the situation. Then added, he offered me a £20 voucher, a bottle of wine, and said there would be a few more freebies offered. Why the hell would I want to go back into that shop, says Lynn. Iceland have said that they're aware of the situation. A spokesperson said the store was closed for a deep clean but is now open as normal. I mean, you could not make it up.
Well, first of all, Lynn, I guarantee you'll be back to spend your £20 voucher. So, I just want to get this image correct in my head. So the elderly woman was in and she was ill.
Yeah.
So they're not saying that she hunched up and squatted down above one of the freezers and took a shit in it. They're saying that she'd went to the bathroom, had a bit of a accident,
yep.
Probably still had shite in her hands, and then went rummaging around the chicken nuggets and smeared the shite.
I think that's the sort of implication, I think, yeah, that's...
If it had been hours ago, now, we're presuming it was just a smear, and it's not like... it's not caked in this mess. If it had been hours, would it not have frozen onto the box?
Well, you would think so, right? I don't know. I'm not giving it quite as much thought as you're clearly giving it, to be honest.
I mean, I'm not going to test it. I'm not going to wipe some shite on a box of fish fingers in my freezer and test how long it takes to freeze. This isn't Mythbusters here. Yeah. I just wonder. There's something about this story that doesn't ring true, and I just can't put my finger on it. I wonder if I think Lynn's at it.
You think Lynn's at it? I was going to say, I think
Lynn's at it.
Yeah.
I think she's the type that would have like a fly in her pocket and would put it in her soup just as she's just finished it.
Yeah.
And be like, oh, there was a fly in my soup. Something about this doesn't ring true.
I remember seeing a documentary about people who do that, like years ago, maybe like 20 years ago it was on, and it was following these two girls who do that sort of thing just to try and get stuff for nothing. And they booked into this hotel. They were staying in the same room. So one of the girls got like an empty Watsits bag out of her handbag, and she poured a bit of water in it, and then sort of smeared. She unmade the bed and smeared the sort of Watsit water mixture on the bed because it looks like shite, basically. And then she called up the room service and was all indignant. This is disgraceful. Someone shat this bed. We want, it's not good enough. We're leaving the hotel, blah, blah, blah. And she managed to get an upgrade to a nicer room. But they were doing stuff like that, and they would buy like say a vodka and lemonade at a bar. They would drink maybe a third of it, and then they would sneak it into the bathroom, top it up with water, and then come back and complain to the bartender that their drink tasted watered down and all this sort of stuff. I mean, just a bunch of wankers. So you think Lynn's maybe been doing that sort of thing?
I don't want to say anything about Lynn. I'm not accusing her of anything. I'm just saying there's something about this story doesn't quite add up. To be honest, at the start of the headline, I was expecting there to be a big
jobby in the freezer.
Jobby in the freezer. And I had so many questions going on in my brain of, how did that get there? Why was it not frozen? What was going on here? Who did it? For it to be a bit of a smear on a packet of chicken nuggets, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't want it to happen to myself, but I love the thought of her picking out these chicken nuggets, putting it in her trolley, and then having a sniff of her fingers, touching her face. It smells like shite.
That's what I mean. It must have been more than just a smear, to get like because she said that she could sort of smell shite before she accidentally touched her nose, and that's when she realised that she had shite in her hands. Right, so it must have been like a fairly modest amount on there, right?
I would expect so, for it to be that noticeable, and yeah.
And another scenario, and if we're giving Lynn the benefit of the doubt, right, is the wee old woman is maybe like been holding the chicken nuggets and then shat herself a wee bit, and so, and then sort of kind of had a feel in her knickers, realised what's happened, maybe, and then used her sort of soiled hand to put the nuggets back in the freezer, unwittingly in the process smearing shite across the box before asking the store staff if she can use the bathroom. I'm sure she would have washed her hands after going to the toilet. You know what I mean?
That is a very plausible scenario.
Yeah.
I never thought about that. And that could... I think you may have cracked this case in that issue. The only thing that worries me is, why is an elderly woman buying chicken nuggets?
Well, I don't know. Chicken nuggets aren't just for kids. Chicken nuggets are chicken nuggets are for everyone.
Well, there you go. That's the new slogan for chicken nuggets.
Iceland's chicken nuggets. They're for everyone.
And they don't smell like shite.
Yeah. Although they probably do taste like shite, to be honest. Those scatological stylings concluded. Do you have another story?
I can't possibly beat that. But the only other thing I saw this week that tickle me, but it's I can't beat the elderly Iceland shiter, the menace to Iceland society.
Yeah.
So we obviously you have not obviously, but you have a few. I'm sorry, I'm totally thrown off by the jobby in the freezer.
The strange case of the jobby in the freezer.
Like myself, you have a couple, or you have a few tattoos.
Yep.
And it's something that your tattoos mean something to you.
Yeah.
And I'm the same. My tattoos that I have mean something to me. And if I was to get any more in the future, and I would like to get some more, it's important that they are something that means something to me and that I like as well. Would you ever get a tattoo of your favourite nightclub?
What do you mean, like of the building? Or the logo?
No. So this is a Glasgow venue. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. It's SWG3.
I know.
So it's a nightclub. It's a popular bar and club apparently in Glasgow. So this guy, who it doesn't give his age, I don't think. Nope. He's decided to get SWG3 tattooed just above his sort of left breast area. And it's not massive, but it's, small, but it clearly says SWG3. So I think he got this done hoping that his tattoo would entitle him to like free entry and discounts in his favourite nightclub. As you would think, he's now a walking promotion for this.
Yep.
As is the culture nowadays, he sent them a tweet with a photo of his new tattoo and saying, "Can I get free entry for life?" And he got a response quite immediately from the bosses at SWG3. And his response, I don't think, was probably what he was anticipating, because they replied with, "That's not even the right font, mate." Shocker. So, and then they retweeted it for their entire following with just the word "shocker." So it's true, his font looks something like Helvetica that he might have, or Garamond that he has got his tattoo in, and SWG3's logo is very much the kind of the army spray paint, like the A-Team type
logo,
logo. I'm not sure what that's called, but he's got that as their logo. So yeah, he didn't even get. So he was branded an absolute shocker and hit with a double whammy that his tattoo wasn't even in the correct font. Fair play to the lad, but I don't know what would possess you to get a tattoo like that. I'm never going to get the Belmont Bar tattooed on my shoulder.
The schooner.
The schooner, yeah. That would be a good little tattoo to get.
So did you see a picture of this tattoo? Does it look like a real tattoo, or does it look like he's maybe written it on himself?
No, it does. It looks like a real tattoo. It's got the red around it and kind of raised slightly. So he hasn't just done it himself with a biro. It looks professionally done. It's not like a prison tattoo or anything, but I'd imagine that's going to be getting covered up probably quite soon.
How big would you say it was? Like a couple inches long?
It's not even that big. It's maybe like an inch tall,
right,
and a couple of inches long. So it's only a few letters, so it's not massive. He's still stuck with that, until he gets it covered up.
It will have cost them still cost them about 20 quid or something. Do you know what I mean? 20, 25 quid. It is a bit small. It should be quite easy to cover up then. Yeah.
Yes, I can imagine so, and he'll probably want to cover it up after that response from his now least favourite venue. So I think that covers the news for the week. I don't think we're going to beat the Iceland jobby for quite some time, and I'm going to be. That's going to keep me awake tonight, thinking about how that happened and what that elderly woman's up to, and if her shopping was covered in shite. Like, you know, imagine when she got home and she's unpacking her bags, and she's like, "Oh, great, you know, I've shite all over my messages."
Yeah, I know. I think Iceland have a social responsibility to try and reach out to this wee woman and make sure she's all right.
The beauty of it is, though, everything's in boxes, so you can just scrape it off. Shall we delve into a review then?
Yes.
Okay, so it was your choice this week, and so why don't you tell us about what you've chosen? And
okay, so I chose actor and director Peter Mullan's 1997 black comedy Orphans for this week. His feature film directorial debut. He had directed a few short films before this. But yeah, so when was the last time you watched this?
Quite a while ago, I would think. I'm certain it was you that introduced me to this film.
Uh-huh.
And would probably be about 20 years ago, would have been the last time that I watched it. So it was very good to revisit it and watch it again, probably as a slightly mature and being able to appreciate some other things that are in it. I had a startling realisation that there's an actress that I'd thought was in this film that isn't actually in it. But it'd been quite a while, and it was really great to revisit it. And, you know, thoroughly enjoyable. But, I mean, as I say, you introduced me to the film, so what was your memories of it? You had obviously seen it before I had.
When this came out, I was a huge film fan, like very, very, very serious about it and things. Like you'll remember my video wall in my flat in Aberdeen with all my VHS tapes and things. Like whenever Virgin or HMV had a buy 3 for 20 quids or whatever, I'd just go and buy them and top up my collection. I used to buy like Empire and a couple of other film magazines, so I had read about it in Empire. Peter Mullan, up until this point, to me, was one of these actors who you just sort of saw in a lot of things, but you didn't really know who he was. You know what I mean? Or at least I didn't know who he was. You know, he plays the Mother Superior in Trainspotting. He plays one of the gangsters in Shallow Grave. But he's been acting in Scotland for probably almost 40 years. I was down in Cumbernauld seeing my dad, and we rented it from his local global video shop. And it was his choice actually, but I'd read about it, and I was quite keen to see it because it was set in Glasgow, and you know, like the whole reason that we've decided to do this podcast is because of our mutual appreciation of like Scottish movies and TV shows and all that. So obviously I was keen to see it for those reasons. So my dad and I watched it that night, and I just thought it was absolutely brilliant. Like brilliant, because it's such black comedy, and it goes from just like some out and out hilarious moments to some quite dark and sinister moments in a beat, you know?
Yes, it does. It certainly does. And I think that's what struck me. It does go to very dark moments, and then there is something that kind of makes you burst out laughing, and that's what I love, really enjoyed about the film, because obviously for anyone who's not familiar, it tells the story about 4 siblings gathering together for their mother's funeral, and it struck me that the 4 siblings are all so different, and you can immediately tell that they're different personalities and they look very different, and although they do provide some comedic value, I think it's some of the side characters that do provide the funniest moments. Certainly in terms of John's mate Tanga, played by Frank Gallagher. He's a very sinister and dark character, but he does provide a lot of humorous moments.
Yeah, I mean, I think, to describe the sort of 4 leads, as you say, it's the night before their mother's funeral. The oldest brother is Thomas, played by Gary Lewis, and he's he's played that he's not too bright, but he's a kind of dutiful son. He promised his mother that he would spend the night in the church with her the night before the funeral. He would spend the night with the coffin. You've got Michael, who's the second older brother, played by Douglas Henschel, and he's the more assertive one, the sort of, I don't know how you describe Michael. He's kind of like, he's more like the kind of older brother than Thomas in some respects. And then there's John, who's he's a student, he's the younger brother, and then there's Sheila, who plays the sister, who's the sister, and she's disabled. Sorry, John's played by Stephen McCall, who we spoke about in the last podcast, because he plays Willie in the Rockstar's Guide, the Young Person's Guide to Becoming a Rock Star. There's Sheila, played by Rosemary Ferns, and she's disabled. I think she's got cerebral palsy, and it's the night before the funeral. Thomas is spending the night in the church. Michael gets stabbed in the bar, although obviously being stabbed is always serious, but he's like walking wounded. John is furious and goes after the guy that stabbed him, and Sheila has to go with Thomas to the church and ends up getting separated from him and getting a bit lost and taken in by some kindly strangers. But yeah, really, really black humour, and I think Peter Mullan wrote it shortly after losing his own mother, I believe.
He did, yeah, and he says each of the main characters represents an element of what he was feeling at the time, and you can completely get that because they are all different in a way. Gary Lewis playing Thomas, he is very... he's still in the stage of grief. He's outpouring, and you see him when he's singing. We'll come back to karaoke, and yeah. He breaks down, and he obviously just doesn't want to leave his mother's side in the coffin. So he's very much the grief element. Stephen McCall as John is representing anger, I would say, because of what's happened to Michael, but it's more, I think, his way of coping that he, is being very angry. In terms of Michael's character, I'm not sure. It's almost like acceptance in a way, because he's kind of just dealing with other things. So he's obviously got issues of his own. He's separated from his wife and kids, and he's still not thinking rationally, though, because at the end when he goes into his work to try and claim that his stab wound had happened there so he could claim on the compensation.
Yeah.
And Sheila, of course, and now up until I'd rewatched this, I was convinced that she was played by Shirley Henderson, and I'm not quite sure why, but for some reason in my head that Shirley Henderson was in this film. She plays the girl in the wheelchair, but obviously not. I'm not quite sure what stage of grief she would be at. Sheila's quite a headstrong, she just kind of wants to get out of the church, and she wants to go and see Michael, and she has like a little comical side story of her own, really, when she ends up at a random birthday party. But I think you could tell from the 4 siblings, they're all like acting differently in terms of, I think Thomas, as I say, he's very grief-stricken, but I think he wants to just almost show how much he is grieving, because at the start they have a lovely bit where they all cut a lock of their hair and put it in the coffin to be with their mum, and the other 3 take a little bit from the back of their heads that's going to go unnoticed, and Thomas just takes a massive chunk out the front of his widow's peak, one of the sides, and spends the rest of the film with this big chunk out of his hair. And I don't know if that's to show that he's not thinking rationally, or if it's to show that my grief's bigger than yours, so I'm going to do this. He's the one that gets up to sing the song. He's the one, that at the end carries the coffin on his own, which is a fucking beautiful metaphor to show that he's carrying the burden of everything.
Yeah.
Whereas the other three, they're more looking out for each other in terms of John's off on a mission to get revenge for Michael being stabbed. Michael's off to try and find Sheila. And Sheila's, well, she's trapped in a birthday party, but, all she wants is to get back to Michael and John, effectively. So they're all kind of caring and looking out for each other, whereas Thomas, he didn't even want to let Michael in the church.
That's such a good scene, that. Michael, he's banging on the door, demanding sanctuary in the pissing rain, and discovers that the side door's open. While Thomas is still talking to him through the door, Michael appears behind him. I think, it's testament to the actors in this, because they don't look alike, as you say. They don't look alike in any way, but you still totally buy them as siblings in their relationship. I guess it's a well written, it's a well written script as well. You can fully believe in the conversations and everything. You totally buy that they're siblings. You can sense the kind of history there and all that sort of stuff. But I think particularly between Michael and Thomas, because John and Michael don't really have that many scenes together. Like, there's this scene outside the bar after Michael's been stabbed, and then later on in the church when they turn up at the funeral. But they're fairly short scenes, whereas the scene in the church with Thomas and Michael is the longest, really. You know what I mean? And you could, and that whole exchange about, when he's trying to light his cigarette on the ceiling heater, and he says, I've not done this since I was an altar boy. And Thomas says, you were never an altar boy. I was an altar boy. And Michael's like, you were never an altar boy, Thomas.
Yeah, the bit that gets me about that scene is that he gives him a lift up to get a light for his fag on, like, a lamp. And then it cuts to the next scene where, he's got a candle. So was he just trying to be an awkward prick and not offering him the candle to light his cigarette, but yet giving him a lift up?
I don't know, maybe just a bit of poetic license, maybe, but because he's, of course, the Virgin Mary's been smashed because Sheila's like driven her wheelchair into Thomas and knocked him over, and he's knocked over the statue of the Virgin Mary, and he's using the candle wax to put it back together, and he's actually done a pretty good job so far. When you see it, he's got about half of the Virgin Mary reassembled.
Well, he's had a fair bit of time on his hands, but to be fair, that's a bastard of a jigsaw to put together.
The one scene in this film that I hadn't seen it for quite a long time, Orphans, when I came to watch it again for the podcast, but the scene that, and I think every time I see this film, it always surprises me, is when Tanga catches a face full of jizz.
Yeah, I really wasn't expecting that. I didn't remember that from the watching it the first time, and when that happened, it took me almost as much as surprise as it probably took Tanga. It's very unexpected, and that is just absolutely brilliant. It's just so funny, so comical, so unexpected.
Yeah, well, that's one of these scenes that start, like we mentioned earlier. It starts off like incredibly funny, and then it takes a really dark turn like a few minutes later. Yeah, I suppose back then you wouldn't have got a scene like that in like a sort of Hollywood film, I don't think. That's just like kind of before films like American Pie and There's Something About Mary and all that sort of stuff came out. But I guess, especially with British independent films, they've always been able to be a bit edgier, you know what I mean, and maybe a bit more graphic about certain things. Every time I see that film, I'm never prepared for that scene.
No, it's definitely quite unexpected. But as you say, it shows how the film works in that it is a very comical moment, and then it turns very dark because Tanga is obviously enraged at having this guy, this customer that he hates, jizz in his face accidentally, and the guy got a fright. So much so that, barges into his house and is about to effectively rape his wife. And so, yeah, it does take a very sinister turn, but thankfully John kind of saves the wife from getting raped.
Did you spot early in the movie, when they're still in the bar after the incident, did you spot Clatty Bella from Just a Boys Game?
I did not. No, is Clatty Bella in there?
She is. She's the scene where Thomas is talking. He's talking to her about how he's the full-time carer for Sheila, who's disabled, and she's the woman that's saying how she cared for her mother for 20 years and before it got too tough and she had to put her in a funeral home.
Wow.
Not a funeral home, a old folks home. Yeah, Jan Wilson, like her name is. She's a wee bit like Peter Mullan in the sense that she appears in a lot of things, like a lot of Scottish stuff. I'm sure she's turned up in a couple of episodes of Still Game as well, and she's obviously done the Taggart Gauntlet at least once, because I've been watching Taggart lately, and she was in one that I watched the other day. So yeah, it was good to see her there. And then of course Alex Norton. I know you like to see him pop up.
I do. I'm a big fan of Alex Norton, and he is fantastic as probably the angriest pub landlord in the world. Now, my question would be, why in the name of fuck would you want to drink in a pub like that?
Yeah, I know. You would go once and probably leave after one drink.
Yeah, or end up getting locked in the cellar, like 4 of our heroes seem to be. And a fantastic appearance from Maureen Carr, who plays Edith in Still Game, and I was shocked to the core to realise that her voice is actually like that.
A raspy voice. Yeah, I didn't actually realise that was her until you just mentioned that now. Now that you mention it. She does have one of the best lines in the film when they're explaining to Michael how they've ended up being taken prisoner in the keg room in the cellar because I guess that guy's meant to be her partner that she's with. He's been chatting up some other woman.
And it's all your fault.
It wasn't my fault. She tried to strangle me. Look at the marks on my neck.
Ah, well, you deserved it. Chatting up that fat slag.
Wasn't he chatting her up? We were talking about Jean de Florette, man on the sewers. She speaks fluent French.
Aye, and you talk constant pish.
Yeah, of course, the Alex Norton is the angry pub landlord who locks people in the cellar, and he gets his comeuppance in quite a big style in terms of getting hogtied to a chair whilst they effectively drink all his profits. And hey, if you're going to tie up a pub landlord and you've got free reign of the bar, would you not do that to teach him a lesson?
Maybe. I don't know if I would draw a dartboard in his arse and start throwing darts at him, though.
Yeah, that's maybe a bit too far, I guess.
Yeah, it's a good scene. And we didn't mention the scene near the start with the guy who's just had the baby and the conversation in the pub toilets. The guy's buying condoms. That was a character that I really kind of wanted to see more of, because he was just sublime, like brilliantly funny. And we've all met guys like that, that are just a bit pished, on cloud 9 for maybe their football team's won, maybe they're just a baby, like that guy, or maybe they're just having a really good night. Maybe they're on pills, whatever. But they're just just chatting away, friendly to everybody.
He's enjoying himself. He's obviously just had a baby. He says about riding bareback and not using the poppy hats.
Hey, wee man, what are you doing? You don't want any of that fucking rubbish. Get out there riding bareback. Get yourself hundreds and hundreds of fucking babies. Am I right, Biggie? Am I right? Aye, right. You get any wins? 2. 2? Hey, did you hear that? This cunt's got fucking 2.
Come on, you bastard.
I love you, big man. I do. I fucking love you. You might well be right there, wee man. You might well be right. At least I don't wear fucking pokey hats.
Unfortunately, he kind of gets caught up in the kerfuffle on the fight and ends up getting thrown out, and they won't let the poor guy back in. It's maybe for the best. I think maybe he was getting on people's tits, but poor guy is enjoying his night out and he gets thrown out the pub and doesn't get back in.
I mean, the thing about this film, I mean, he's not directed a ton of stuff. Peter Mullan, like he did the Magdalene Sisters a few years after this, about the set in Ireland, about the girls being sent to the home for getting pregnant and stuff. He did Ned's again, which is, although it has some quite funny moments, it's mostly quite a serious, dramatic film. You know, this is like, it's the only time he's done this sort of out and out, it doesn't come much blacker comedy. But I guess for him, this was a good year for him because he had just won the Best Actor prize at Cannes for his starring role in Ken Loach's My Name Is Joe, about a recovering alcoholic. So I guess his stock was pretty high. Now, of course, he's in Ozark on Netflix, doing a very convincing American accent, I've got to say.
Yeah, as you say, his stock was obviously very high. And do you know that Channel 4 sort of gave the funding for Orphans when he was trying to get the project off the ground? But they decided, after it was made, that they weren't going to distribute it because they didn't think it had that wide an audience that people would want to see it. So Peter Mullan took it to the Venice Film Festival and it won 4 awards at the festival, including one for Peter Mullan. So it started getting a bit of hype around it. So Channel 4 came back to him and said, okay, we'd like to distribute it now. And Peter Mullan effectively told them where to go. Now, I don't know if that's cutting off your nose to spite your face, but I guess it's sticking to your principles as well, in terms of, well, you didn't want to do it, so why would you want to do it now?
No, I like Peter Mullan. I listened to his, because I've got the DVD of Orphans. I've had it for years and years. And remember when they used to do commentaries on DVDs as a special feature, remember? And I listened to his commentary for Orphans. But I don't remember him mentioning about the Channel 4 thing. I guess maybe, he didn't see the point in it. He probably knew that he would be appearing in some Channel 4 funded projects in the future.
Who knows? Maybe it's half-assed internet research, but I'd like to think it was kind of true. We haven't mentioned, in my opinion, the unsung hero of the Swally so far, Mr. Dave Anderson, who appears at the funeral. He has appeared in 3 out of the 5 episodes of the Culture Swally so far. Now, it could be that we've picked things that are a similar era, Just a Boy's Game, Gregory's Girl, but he's jumped into the future now, starring in the latest instalment of Orphans. So, yeah, big shout out to Dave Anderson, the unsung hero of the Swally so far.
Yeah, I mean, again, he's just one of these Scottish actors who just seem to appear in everything. I mean, he was also in an episode of Taggart that I watched last week, so it's literally been... Because I know we'll do Taggart at some point, but yeah, I've been burning through the first... I think I've watched the first 4 Taggart stories over the last couple of weeks. And he was in the last one I watched, and so was Alex Norton, who obviously would go on to play the lead in Taggart, not play Taggart obviously, but be the sort of the lead in the show. But he was he had a part as a suspect in an early Taggart as well.
As you say, it's one of those Scottish actors that you just kind of recognise. It's the same as Douglas Henshall. Now, if you'd said that name to me, I instantly knew who you mean. And years ago, if you'd said his name to me, I would have instantly know exactly who you meant. So, in researching the film, I was like, but what do I actually know him from? And I looked through all of his credits, and there's not a lot in there that I've watched. So I just can't understand how he's got into my brain. And for, as I say, years ago, I would have known who he was. I don't know if it's just one of those Scottish actors that, maybe he was in the paper a lot or something. I know he's quite famous now in terms of Shetland. Yeah. And I remember my mum was watching it one day, and as soon as I saw him, I was like, oh, that's Douglas Henshall. Know who he is, but I've never watched Primeval. I know he was in Lipstick on Your Collar years ago, so maybe that was where I remember him from, but just one of those Scottish actors, I think.
He was in one set, was it called Taking Over the Asylum, I think David Tennant was in it as well. Like an old, I think it was like a drama, like in the kind of early 90s, I think. He was in that, and he was in one of Peter McDougall's plays. Well, maybe we'll review this in a future episode, but there's one called Down Among the Big Boys. He's in that. He plays a police officer who is engaged to Ashley Jensen from Extras and Ugly Betty. Her dad is played by Billy Connolly, who's a bank robber. So it's all about how, he's a policeman marrying a bank robber's daughter, basically. But it's good. It's a good one.
He's also in Primeval with Hannah from S Club 7.
It was in a film I remember going to see years ago that I quite enjoyed called This Year's Love. Like David Gray did the music for it, which it's unfortunate, but the film itself's really good. He's in it. Have you seen it? This Year's Love?
No, I wouldn't watch shite like that.
It's good. It's worth watching. It's a kind of comedy drama, but it's good.
No, I'll pass. Thanks. I seem to remember the TV adverts being on all the time, and me watching it and thinking that looks like a big heap of shite.
Oh well.
Obviously, they all get together at the end for the funeral, and there is a very touching scene towards the end of the film where I never thought about that before, but of course the start of the film they're all together.
Yeah.
And then they all go on their separate ways, and then at the end, they all come together again. And they're trying to get Thomas to go for a curry with them, but he says no. And then he says, I'll see you there. And I'm quite similar in that way, that they turn around and they're like, you're not going to come, are you? And I'd be that kind of guy. Like, yeah, I'll see you there, just to get rid of you.
Yeah.
I'm not, no intention of coming, but he decides that he'll come because
I'll maybe just come for a starter then, because the mushroom pakora's no bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great performance from Gary Lewis. I mean, this was the first film I think I'd seen him in, and then after I saw Orphans, I seemed to see him everywhere. I mean, because famously plays Billy Elliot's dad, and Jamie Bell's dad, and Billy Elliot. He's in Gangs of New York. He's got quite a big part in Gangs of New York. Yeah, he's been fairly prolific. Just over the years, Gary Lewis. I met him once in a bar in Mount Florida in Glasgow called Clockwork, and he was very friendly, very generous with his time, happy to sit and talk or hear me talking shite to him for like 20 minutes about films and all that sort of stuff. Nice fella. But yeah, I mean, I think this is as much as he's very good in everything that he does. I think this might be my favourite performance of his. I think it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, he certainly is. He does play a very, very good performance in the film. Yeah, it does kind of steals the show. Well, I'd say, to be honest, Frank Gallagher as Tanga steals the show for me.
Yeah.
But he does do a very good performance. I'll give you that.
So, favourite scene in the film?
It has to be the spunk in the face scene, I think. It's definitely up there. Randomly, I think another favourite scene of mine would be when Sheila's wheelchair stops and she gets surrounded by the 12, 13-year-old girls, and they're all speaking to her, and one of them comes up with a paper bag and tries to sell her a daily record. Yeah. I think that's just it's quite a sweet little moment, and you're almost fearful for Sheila because, she's a disabled girl that's wheelchair is broken down, and all of a sudden these teenage girls are surrounding her, but they couldn't be nicer and help her on her merry way.
Yeah, the wee girl, I mean, it's that, to your point, it's so surreal, that scene, because there's the wee girl that finds her first, and she's got this big sort of tall princess's hat on, and she's walking about playing Freya Jaco on the harmonica in the middle of the fucking night. Just random. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think I like those scenes with Sheila when she's when with the wee girl's family take her in, and and she ends up staying the night through the storm and all that sort of thing. The wee girl just cracks me up. Just reminds me of like my younger cousins. It's especially when she shouts "Shut it, you!" at the old lady. You know what I mean? She's really good, that wee girl. And then if they were to, what do you think the Orphans would be doing now if we ever given the chance to revisit the characters? Peter Mullan decided to do a sequel. What do you think they'd be doing?
I'm not sure. I mean, I'd imagine the sequel would probably be set around one of their funerals to kind of get the others back together. So, not to make a point, but probably Sheila's. I would imagine that John's probably in prison and will get out for the funeral. He seems to have a bit of a temper on him, and he's been getting firearms and stuff. Michael probably an alcoholic after his divorce and stuff, and not getting to see his kids. And Thomas is probably shacked up with an 18-year-old stunner.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. Let's
give him a happy ending.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I'd like to think though that John, maybe because they make a lot of the fact that John has gone to. He's the only one that's gone to college because his mum wanted him to go to college. Although he has his night where he almost shoots a guy and the guy's baby. And then he has the opportunity to kill this guy as well after they have the fight in the middle of the road and everything. But he sort of seems to come to his senses, and he kind of realises what he's doing is fucking mental. So I would like to think that John's maybe done all right. I think you're right about Michael, because when we meet Michael's wife, it's established that she's a recovering alcoholic. So maybe they pick Michael up. Maybe he's in recovery, or maybe he's, like to your point, he's struggling. And Thomas, no idea. You like to think that he's still unchanged, a bit older, you know what I mean, but pretty much still the same guy with the same concerns and the same issues and everything. I don't know.
Although, in saying that about Michael, he's obviously been keeping himself busy, because when he gets stabbed, his first port of call to go and get patched up is to go to a brothel. So, and he knows the lady there very well. So yeah. I wonder if he's been a frequent visitor since he split up with his wife. Maybe that's why he split up with his wife. Maybe, who knows? Maybe, because he's too much of a fan of the Hoors. He's too much of a shagger, maybe. Do you think this film would get made now? Like 23 years later? 23 years later, fucking hell, that's mental, isn't it? I don't think it would be completely out of place. I mean, there's obviously a few things that possibly wouldn't work quite so well. I mean, you'd have to have not only Sheila's wheelchair battery to die, but also her mobile phone battery as well. Yeah. But of course, if she finds the girls, then they've always got a charger, and she'd be able to get in touch with one of her brothers at some point. But you could say that about just about any film that you think of from back then, that kind of logically it wouldn't work now that we have mobile phones, etc. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it would work quite as well if you were remaking it for today, and I don't know how well it would be accepted, but I think if you were remaking it for Hollywood, then it would obviously be glitz and glamour and gunfights and, these poor orphans. They've been left all alone. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's stuff that probably would be, there's this whole sort of cancel culture now, right? So there's some elements in there that probably, like some lines and stuff that you might be if you were the filmmaker, you might be asked to take out, perhaps. I don't know, but it is weird because I guess this was like literally right before everybody had mobile phones. So in 97, I think I got my first phone in 1998 or 99, I think. So it's literally right before, and then it seemed like within the space of maybe a year, everybody had mobile phones. Yeah, I mean, it would certainly change a couple of things. You know, Tanga's customer wouldn't be knocking one out with an old copy of Mayfair in the toilet. Exactly. He'd be using his iPad to knock one out in there. Does the guy not pay for his Chinese with a cheque or something?
Reach down there, would you? See if you can find us a beef with black bean sauce. Now, here's a cunt that's needing fucking shot. Always pays with a cheque. Never a tip, never a thank you. Fuck all. That's it. Open that up for us, would you?
He does, yes. He pays with a cheque, which, again, you wouldn't get nowadays, but I guess that would just kind of be the same as just handing your card over, wouldn't it? Yeah, or you'd pay on the app. So that's Orphans. You got any other thoughts on the film? No, I really enjoyed watching it again. It was something that I was very pleased to revisit, and yeah, it's just a nice little film. You know, it's not too long. It trundles along. That's a fucking brilliant review, isn't it? What do you think of the film? It wasn't too long, you know? Do you know what pacey. I mean? Yeah, it's not something that you're sitting there. Some films nowadays are too long. That is my opinion. Right. Last weekend, I watched the new Bill and Ted film. It's 88 minutes long. Perfect. That's exactly what you need. You can watch it and then go about the rest of your evening as well. So I thought Orphans was kind of the perfect length because it doesn't drag. There's not really any fat in there. And when you've got 4 central characters to follow around, you would think that there would be something, one of their storylines maybe isn't as good as the others, but they all play a very big part in the film. And I don't think there's anything that you can really cut out. So when I'm saying that it's not too long, it is a compliment that it keeps going. And as you've said earlier, it's a beautiful mix of, it's very funny, but also there are very dark moments, and it's just a good balance. You know, you kind of never know what's going to happen next, and it is full of surprises. You know, as I say, like Tanga getting spunked in the face or getting his leg blown off in the fan as well. You know, you're not expecting that to happen. So there are lots of surprising elements, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's not a film I'll probably watch again in a hurry, because I think it's probably best to... It's the type of film you leave for a while and then would come back to. But I will definitely watch it again. To go back to what you were saying about running times, I think you're absolutely right. Because I suppose when this film came out, it would have probably had probably quite a limited cinema release. You know, maybe like, I imagine it would have been in the GFT in Glasgow. Maybe, I don't know if the Belmont Cinema in Aberdeen was open in 1997. I feel like that opened a bit later. But yeah, it probably wouldn't have got an awful lot of cinema showings, because I mean, by this point, most cinemas were multiplexes, right? You know what I mean? Like, this was like, for the UK anyway, this was the sort of golden age of the fucking multiplex and 10 screens and all that sort of stuff. So, you know, you want to hold someone's attention. You know, you want it to be fairly succinct, to your point, quite pacey. You know, every scene is important in the film. There's you don't watch it and think, well, they could have maybe not done that, they could have left that part out or whatever. But now, I think because of like streaming and because of the internet and everything, you know, you can, you know, like if you've got Netflix, you've got hundreds of films at your disposal. And because the online streaming thing has become really competitive, like everybody's got a fucking streaming platform. You know, like Disney obviously have just recently launched Disney Plus. Apple have just launched their own one with original content. You've got Amazon Prime, you've got Netflix. But it's probably never been easier to get a project funded. You know what I mean? Because it's so competitive. Everybody wants original content. If you've got a bit of stock, a bit of skin in the game, then, you know, like if you're the guys who wrote Game of Thrones, for example, like I heard that Netflix paid like a 9-figure sum to get their next project. Bearing in mind that they've not even fucking written anything yet, but they've just basically whatever they come up with next will be on Netflix. So I think, you know, for that reason, people just make fucking really long films now. They can be quite indulgent, like self-indulgent, you know what I mean? I think it's an indication of, you know, back in the day, and that's not something I want to say too much on this podcast, but, you know, back in the day, you would go in, and if you were picking a film to choose to watch in that evening, you'd go into Blockbuster or Azad or Ritz Video, and you would look through the, you know, and it was very much the covers that attracted you. And you would look at the cover, you would look at who was in it, you would read the back of the video box, and then you would put it back. I don't remember ever looking at the runtime of a film. If we're flicking through Netflix, trying to find something to watch upon an evening, the runtime is probably one of the first things I look at. And I will just say, I'm not watching that. It's fucking 2.5 hours long. Once you actually start watching it, time flies by. You're watching a film, unless it's a piece of shit. But generally, that's one of the first things I look at nowadays. Like, how long is it? Oh, no, I can't be bothered with that.
Yeah. I struggle to sit through a long film, and I think one of the reasons is coming back to it because of my fucking mobile phone. You know what I mean? So I'll be, you know, and if unless the film is absolutely fucking brilliant, and I'm rapt, my attention is like rapt to it, then if it slows down a wee bit, I'll be like, oh, I'll just pick up my phone and see what's going on and fucking Instagram or whatever, and then I end up sort of losing the threads of the film. You know what I mean? I'm just kind kind of aware of it, and then I'm like, oh, fuck it.
I'm not guilty of looking on Instagram or stuff on my phone when I'm watching a film. I'm usually focused. But one thing I am guilty of is when you see an actor or an actress and you think, what have I seen them in before? And rather than wait to the end of the film, because let's face it, you'll have forgotten about it, you have to go on IMDb and check. And then you find out who they are, and then you're like, oh yeah, it's so-and-so from so-and-so, okay. Oh yeah, okay, that satisfied that. And then it happens again, and then, yeah, that's what I'm kind of guilty of. But
Or you end up down the rabbit hole, do you know what I mean? Like, oh, I didn't know she was in that, who else is in that? You know what I mean? And then, before you know it, you've gone through about 16 pages. So is that us for Orphans?
I believe so. We haven't discussed it in about 10 minutes, so yeah, I imagine that's about it. So, okay. So I have picked a film for next time, but you'll be pleased to hear that I've checked the runtime, and it's only 1 hour and 41 minutes. So that fits well within your attention span that I think you should be able to manage. And just what we were talking about as well, in terms of it being Netflix and stuff, it's a Netflix-produced film.
Brilliant.
So it's from 2018, and it's a film about two friends who take a weekend hunting trip to the Highlands. But a shocking turn of events turns it into a nightmare. Now their only hope is to swallow their paranoia and act normal. So I'd like to discuss the 2018 film Caliber.
Brilliant. I look forward to that. Of course, the other task that we've got between now and then is finding a local news story that tops the shite in the freezer.
It's going to be a while before we top the shite in the freezer, I think, my friend. It's going to be quite a while.
All right. Until next time.
Yes, so until next time. So thank you very much for listening, everyone. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can follow us on Instagram at cultureswally.pod. Or if you want to get in touch with us and email us with anything you'd like us to review or any news stories, if you can beat the jobby, then drop us a line on cultureswally@gmail.com. So until next time. See you later.
Get yourself to fuck.